Hello Dixons, I'm Knighton, Senior Vice Principal at Dixon's Academy Trust. In this episode, we continue our work creating a timetable to achieve a 9 days in 10 working pattern for our teachers. This is the 4th video in this mini-series, so do go back and catch up with parts 1, 2 and 3 alongside this one. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the building of the 9 in 10 timetable and discuss problems, barriers and how solutions were found. As mentioned in the previous episode, most of the timetable construction is the same as it always is. There are just more constraints. The big decision to be made is picking the days staff will not be in. In the early stages, these days may change, and depending on which model you are using, staff out every day, staff out for only 4 days in 10, etc., it might not be as simple as one faculty for each of the days. You may even need to combine or even split faculties. I then needed to look at the blocking and banding. What will be identical to last year and where will adjustments need to be made for the change in curriculum and school structure. This example sees the school move from a 1-week 30-lesson model to a 2-week 58-lesson model. All changes need a pause in check that they are able to continue in the following years and not cause clashes or create impossible scenarios for future timetables. This is also the time to take into consideration issues unrelated to the 9 in 10 plan, such as the strain new BTECs have put on the system and the need to maximise the time Year 10 and 11 are in options lessons. This vital lesson time can be affected by day-to days and planning days that mainly lie on Thursdays and Fridays in our trust. I always like to build a timetable model in Excel first so that I am 80% convinced I have a plan that works before entering into the world of timetable computer packages. This gives me control over PE, option blocks, core subjects and the look of the Year 11 experience. When I am satisfied I have a working model, I move to the computer package. I will never claim that I have done it until there is a full working timetable that in theory could be uploaded tomorrow. This was especially relevant to this case as the build was incredibly complex and I would say took twice as much time as previous years. Also, I need to say that the Excel model is not set in stone. As the build starts, adjustments are continuously made and I find having the overview in Excel helps me see the bigger picture and how a small change has a ripple effect across the whole timetable. It took about 20 to 25 hours of work to get to the stage of having an Excel model. It was in this time that faculty days were decided. Considering the size of the faculties, blocking, again PE and options very important here, and in our case a relatively high number of part-time staff. The time spent on the abandoned Monday-Friday model mentioned in the previous episodes wasn't wasted, as many of these types of calculations were already started with a range of Excel spreadsheets set up to provide numbers and plans. This was a model to prove a 9 in 10 working pattern was possible. Writing a timetable for the following academic year in December-January will never lead to a final model to be used. Staffing always changes, other decisions are made in the spring for the following academic year. Whilst these are the days decided for this model, these may change for the actual timetable for the school next year. This always leads to a complication for humanities and MFL in Key Stage 4, as they then must be worked into the timetable. As you can see, Thursday week B had the highest number of staff off, and as a result it became the hardest day to fix. Other capacity issues then kick in. For example, even if you have more than one teacher of drama or music, there may only be one space where these subjects can be taught. Or, as the Year 7 and 8 non-core lessons go in last, there are often not enough spaces for the Key Stage 3 lessons, such as drama or DT, to actually fit in due to the blocking of options in core subjects in 9, 10 and 11. The first stages of building had little difference from previous years, just the one extra parameter of one subject not being available on each day, which we came to by agreeing a baseline that days off would be faculty grouped. Year 10 and Year 11 went in reasonably well, but this was definitely when the difficulties in timetabling humanities and MFL arrangements began to appear. By Year 9, it became very clear that I would have to change my approach and to start thinking differently about how I was going to make it work. Whilst there was always enough staff available, it wasn't always the staff needed for the subject that needed to go into that gap. I was determined to stick to all staff being in on Monday and Friday, and I always knew that this would mean some whole year group teaching would likely be needed in Year 7 and Year 8. In conversation with the principal about what they felt was acceptable, the idea of a half-year group teach became a solution for humanities. If there were 4 lessons of geography over 2 weeks, for example, then 3 could be classroom-based and 1 could be delivered to 3 groups collectively. This became a workable solution and allowed Year 9 to fit in with the Year 10 and 11 model. Year 7 and Year 8 is where the challenges were really met. Complete flexibility was needed for staffing within non-core faculties. While staffing can be chosen for specific groups in Year 10 and 11 and mainly in Year 9, it will simply have to be who is available for Year 7 and 8. Again, there were sticking points. Year 7 and 8 will have to have whole year group collective learning once, maybe twice per week for English and Maths. And again, the idea of half year group teaching for some humanities and double group teaching for drama. This needed to be carefully balanced. Whilst these big teachers are acceptable solutions to making the 9 and 10 model work, the students need to be protected from experiencing these scenarios multiple times on the same day, because we need to protect the student experience in their learning and in the pastoral responsibilities that we hold. The physical space capacity to manage big teachers in different year groups on the same day is also a further consideration. An additional challenge that is occasional on current timetables, but now more prevalent with the staff day off, is doubles, or repeated lessons on the same day. If there are 10 lessons of English in the curriculum plan and only 9 days when English can be delivered, all year groups will have to have at least 1 day when they have English twice. Having experienced double Year 11 science on a Tuesday afternoon this year, I knew what we wanted to avoid. Where possible, repeated lessons are not back-to-back unless broken up by either break or lunch, with the exception of Key Stage 4 options. The unexpected bonus of the additional collective learning was a reduction on the strains of staffing in core subjects. Whilst whole year group, half year group or double groups will always be led by at least 1 subject specialist, the supporting staff can be non-specialist and slightly reduced. This allowed more financial flex and also gave a bit of capacity back to subject areas under staffing pressure. It meant the surplus staff hours were effectively used without increasing non-specialist teaching. Again, a better financial model as the majority staff time is used. This additional capacity, as well as looking carefully at the hours of senior staff, led us to a model where all staff had a day off, as well as having a healthy amount of PPA time. Thanks for listening to this whistle-stop tour of my experience in bringing a model to life for our flexible working model of 9 days in 10 for teaching colleagues. Thanks for watching, and please do subscribe to our platform at www.dixonsos.com. We'd love your feedback, so please like and comment below.